Hello and welcome back to the Direct Capital channel, and welcome to today's market update about the market leaders Bitcoin, Ethereum and Litecoin. I hope you're having an awesome day. I hope you had an incredible weekend, a restful, peaceful weekend in the company of family and friends. And before we dive into the video, we've passed 1,000 subscribers on the Direct Capital channel, and to celebrate I'm going to be hosting a live TA stream for altcoins. I'm going to be taking your TA requests on your favorite altcoins, so just leave your requests in the comments down below. Like those if you've seen that somebody wants ICX or somebody wants EOS. I'm going to be paying attention to all these different likes and all these different comments, and I'm going to choose the ones that have been mentioned the most. So when is this live TA stream going to happen? Well, it's going to happen tomorrow at 7 p.m. UTC. So that's Tuesday, tomorrow at 7 p.m. UTC. The link to the live stream is down below. It's already ready for you guys. Just click it whenever you're ready to join the live stream. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. UTC, I'm going to be taking all your requests live, as well as the ones mentioned in the comments below. So stay tuned for that one. I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait to see and speak to you guys then. And having said that, the Bitcoin halving is out now. We had it live last week on Thursday. It was a blast. I had so much fun. Red hot engagement, really good questions as well in the live chat. It's out now. You can watch it anytime, any place. The description is down below. I'm really happy with the positive feedback that I've been getting about this webinar. I got a nice message from Chris, who attended the webinar. Thanks for hosting the webinar. Great value and long-term perspective, which is what I'm looking for and trading at. Would love webinars at a regular basis, like once a month or something like that. And that's amazing, because I'm definitely going to host another webinar. I see that this is something that really adds value to you guys, so I'm definitely going to be hosting another webinar in the future, and we're going to choose the topic together. So before I chose the topic for the Bitcoin halving webinar, I said we're going to look at the Bitcoin halving because there's a lot of unexplored things that I haven't talked about yet in my Twitter and Telegram. But now we're going to focus on something that you guys want to see. So I'm going to post a tweet in the future and we'll take it from there. But definitely a webinar is something that I'm going to have in the future. And of course, if you want to look at what you can expect from the future webinars, check out the Bitcoin halving webinar. It will help you with what you're trading, and it's great value. But let's dive into today's update. This is the chart that I was looking at yesterday because we've seen a fantastic monthly close. This is the monthly chart. We've seen a fantastic monthly close earlier this month above the range high resistance. So that means we've exited this range altogether, which is fantastic news. But of course, we're entering a cluster of resistance for Bitcoin's price action, and this one is the immediate resistance for Bitcoin. And since then, I charted this yesterday, since then we've seen a rejection on Bitcoin's price action. And I'm not really going to be zooming in here for Bitcoin because so far on a macro scale, it's very bullish for Bitcoin. So if you pay attention to the 4-hour and to the daily, you're going to see a lot of fluctuation and noise that's going to distract you from where Bitcoin is potentially going and what it can potentially do going forward. Because we have to bear in mind, monumental hype came when Bitcoin hit 10K for the very first time. And it's awesome that we've seen 10K be breached once again, but notice how that hype isn't really happening. We're not really having those emotional triggers at 10K, which only means that 10,000 has become a level that is normalized among the public. Everybody just sort of got used to it. There's a lot of habituation there. People now don't really get excited about 10K, which only means that that hype level, that hype trigger price point is now at a different level, and that different level is most likely going to be at a higher price. So what is that price point? Well, I think that this is a very key resistance that's going to promote a lot of FOMO leading into the halving. So we're probably going to see 16K to 17K prior to the halving. But the price point that really will be that trigger among many people and is going to foster a lot of awareness in the mainstream is of course going to be 20,000. Because if we think about 20,000, that's going to be the psychological inflection point, which is simply going to spur on a cascading amount of demand and buy interest that is simply going to flick a switch in the minds of people and just promote further growth to the upside. Because here's how most people think about Bitcoin, in the mainstream at least, who don't have any Bitcoin exposure, have heard about Bitcoin in the news or from a friend or whatever. If Bitcoin is below 20,000, I'm bearish. If Bitcoin is above 20,000, then I'm bullish. And that's the switch. That's the psychological inflection point that we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of hype and FOMO enter the market. A lot of new money is going to enter the market. That new wave of interest is going to start once 20,000 is breached, and that's when we're going to see the new phase of the market, because at the moment we're still in the awareness phase. People are talking about Bitcoin, but it's not really, people are talking about Bitcoin and there's a lot of interest there, but that awareness is only coming to the forefront of people's minds later, once we see new highs. So if we get that 16, 17k before the halving, people are going to get more interested, and of course that parabolic rise is going to happen once 20,000 is breached. So it's very important to zoom out and understand where we're going, because in every new market cycle we've seen a new all-time high. It's happened in the past, in the previous 4 market cycles that Bitcoin has enjoyed in its 10-year price history. We're now seeing the 5th market cycle, the 5th boom and bust. We're currently in the very early stages of the boom. There will be a bust at the end of 2021, for instance, but we are enjoying the very early stages of the boom of this new market cycle. So it's very important to just bear that perspective in mind. Having said that, let's just zoom in a bit and not think about Bitcoin in terms of months and years. Let's think about Bitcoin in terms of weeks and where it could potentially dip, because we've had a very interesting past few weeks. We've seen Bitcoin breach 10k yesterday, and we've seen a lot of euphoria on a micro sense tap in, because we're going to see euphoria at different stages in the market, but of course that maximum euphoria is still a way away, just like I was talking about earlier. So if we look at the weekly, we have to understand that, well, we might be dipping right now, and that's perfectly fine because we've had a strong monthly close, which was pretty much, well, that's pretty much an over 35% gain for Bitcoin in the past few weeks. So naturally speaking, you have to have a dip. It's a healthy retrace, not only in terms of price action and people having to take profits and then whatnot, but it's also the psychology, because if we just cycle all the way here, we have to have that reset in the psychology, because people are getting a little too greedy, and we can't see strong rallies if we're getting too greedy, because that's just not going to propel price forward. So we definitely need a psychological reset in the minds of the market participants and in the price itself, which is essentially two of the same thing. It ties in together. So where could Bitcoin dip going forward? Well, the most important thing to bear in mind is, as long as we're above the range high resistance, which is supposed to be a new support, then it's all well and good. So if we look at the monthly, this is essentially the level that we could possibly even revisit on this dip. That's the level that is still a bullish one. It's still good news as long as we get to there. It could even wick below to maybe 9,100. But the most important thing is it's probably going to stay above 9,000 if it wants to be bullish. So these are the levels to watch for, essentially above 9,000 on this dip, because we're not going to see a correction like we saw with the 53% correction from 13,900, which lasted 7 months. We're not going to see that anytime soon. The correction is over, and if you want to know why, here's that video I was talking about the correction and why we're in a new uptrend. So because we're in a new uptrend, it very much is buy the dip season, as they say in the crypto sphere. But how deep will that dip be? It won't be a correction, but it is going to be a dip. And as long as 9,000 is, as long as Bitcoin is above 9,000, then that's all well and good. I'm not worried at all, and I'm not worried in the macro sense anyway. When we look at these short-term price fluctuations, then if you bear in mind the halving and everything coming up, it really doesn't matter if we get 10% to the downside, 5% to the downside, 11, 12, 15. It really doesn't matter, because after the halving, we see 3,000 to 4,000% gains to the upside. So it is all about that perspective. Very important not to get lost in the emotionality of the price fluctuations that we see on a daily basis. And this just ties in with what I'm talking about. Any Bitcoin retrace going forward is going to be very different to the 2018 retraces, because in the bear market we saw a macro downtrend before new lows, and in the bull market we're going to see corrections and dips, but generally speaking we're going to see new highs going forward. And this is very much the case of where we are in the market cycle. We're not in a bear market, we're in a bull market. And when a bull market corrects, which is absolutely fine, it's very healthy for the market to have those corrections. It very much is normal price activity. And speaking about Ethereum, on the weekly chart, notice how I'm not even zooming in on the lower time frames. Maybe here, just to evidence and show you guys that this was pretty much a green rally. But we do have this sort of topping out, arcing price action. So this was something that I spoke about a week ago, where just visualize you throwing a ball to your friend in the park. You're going to throw a ball into the sky. It's going to peak at some point in the air and then go to your friend. So it kind of, the ball makes that trajectory, that arcing trajectory that we're kind of seeing here. So this is going to be you're throwing the ball, it peaks around here and then it goes to your friend. Well, we're actually seeing this sort of topping out price action in Ethereum. So a dip is definitely coming. And this is something that we spoke about on Friday, because we were talking about this particular piece of price action. This is going to be a resistance right over here, which is around $220. And look what's happening to Ethereum's price action right now. We're actually seeing a rejection from 220. So this previous support is now a new resistance. And we have to have a reset in the psychology of market participants as well as in the price action for us to be able to break that 220 resistance going forward. But we need a bit of a rest. The bulls need a rest after breaching this blue diagonal, this blue dotted multi-month downtrending diagonal resistance. We've breached this and we've got a new uptrend, but the bulls need to rest. They can't keep charging. Bulls need to sleep. Bulls need to eat. Bulls need to have fun and not just work. You know, they have to take some time off and then come back recharged, re-energized, and back to making new highs. And this is what I think is in store for Ethereum in the future, but in the short term we have to have that dip. And where could Ethereum dip to? Well, it could dip to $210, it could dip to $200. The deeper the dip, the better it will be for Ethereum's price action going forward in the long term. So we have those supports at 210, 200, perhaps a little below 200. As long as we get those levels, then I'm more than happy to be an accumulator once again. I'm definitely going to be looking at how we see those reactions there at those levels going forward, but I'm more than happy to just wait this dip out and see what happens next, because we know what Ethereum is capable of. And if we keep this sort of weekly perspective in mind, well, we've seen the 160, 360, 160, 360, 160, 360 three times in the past. So I have no doubt in my mind we're probably going to see 160, 360 once again in this market cycle. My worry is that we will go much higher than that. But that's a story for another day. Let's move on to Ethereum BTC. We've seen that breakout over here. We've seen a breakout past the 200 exponential moving average, which is all well and good. Usually we tend to see 20% rises to the upside before Ethereum BTC retests the 200 EMA. This is an extrapolation of that moving average over here, so it hasn't developed yet. I'm just assuming this is where we might see that EMA happen, or at least progress towards. So Ethereum BTC is pulling back right now. It's going to want to test this level into a new support, and as long as it does that, then this is very much in the balance. It's very much on the cards, but of course I have to be open to the scenario that we might actually see that 200 EMA retest sooner than I'd expected, and that's fine as well. That's something I'm open to, but let's see how this support figures in the future, in the short term. And moving on to Litecoin BTC, I spoke about this in a lot of detail in my if you'd like to look into that in a bit more detail, I've analyzed the past market cycles and the price action in a lot more detail in that video, so check it out if you'd like. But what I was looking for is this candle. This is what I was looking for. I was looking for a successful retest of this level right over here, which is the top of the historical accumulation box for Litecoin BTC. So we've got that weekly candle above it, we've got that retest attempt, and this week we just have to see a continuation. We have to have that volume come in so that we can see further upside. Right now we're dipping, which is fine. I am also open to the fact that we might see some wicking on the weekly to around 0068, something in that region, because remember, we have wicks over here, we also have wicks over here. In the past, we tend to see wicking price action into the top of the accumulation box before going to the upside, and I'm not going to be surprised if we see that going forward. So something to bear in mind. But technically speaking, on the weekly, because this is a weekly chart, we've seen the retest attempt. Now we just have to see continuation and volume come in to have that retest attempt really grow into something more substantial. So definitely an interesting week for Litecoin BTC. It's on the verge, on the cusp of confirming a new market cycle, which is very exciting because Litecoin BTC tends to be a leading indicator for a lot of altcoins, and it has that role, it shares that role with Ethereum. So having said that, that's just about it for today's video. Like it if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more videos. We've got the live stream for Altcoin TA tomorrow, 7 p.m. UTC. That's Tuesday, 7 p.m. UTC. Be sure to click the link in the description down below. And of course, if you want to check out the Bitcoin halving webinar, check it out. It's definitely worth your while. So much value, so much long-term perspective, and good quality content. So if you like this video, please leave a like. It'll help me out a lot. I really appreciate your support. Subscribe for future videos, and I'll just leave you with this note that you survived the crypto bear market. You've survived a healthy Bitcoin pullback. Now it's time for you to thrive in this bull market, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we will see small dips along the way. So you survived the crypto bear market, the first major correction in this bull market for Bitcoin. You'll definitely survive this dip. And that's just about it for today's video. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you soon.